Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. I know I haven't made a video in a long time. Hopefully soon I'll get back on the ball with making videos, at least maybe a couple a month. But we'll see what happens. But I'm making one right now, and this is comic book haul number 52. This is a pretty big haul. Of course, a lot of upgrades and, some new additions to the collection. So it's always nice to add some new books that I've never had before to the collection. Although upgrading is still something that I'm very much into and very much enjoying. But it's, again, good to add some new stuff to the collection. So, let's get started. This isn't really much, but I've always liked this cover. Batman New 52 number 4. This is, I think, the fourth print of this, and I think it's the first appearance of the character Talon. I don't know. I've always seen this, and since everything is so cheap now, I figured I'd get a copy of this. Now, this is around Easter time, so what better time to pick up this book right here? Picture Stories from the Bible, number 1. Now I know there's a couple editions of this one. I know there's the one that says DC on it. This is the one that does not have the DC logo on it, but this was through, I believe, EC Comics, right? For those out there that, could educate me a little bit more on this. I've always seen Picture Stories from the Bible advertised in the classic EC Comics. These were the books that they put out before they started the new trend with horror and crime and science fiction and all that stuff. But yeah, always wanted to add one of these to my collection. Here we have. What better one to put in the collection around this time of year? Here's one that's come back to the collection. I don't know if it's necessarily an upgrade. It could use a press, but I sold this off years ago, and now it's back. Walking Dead number 3. Actually, I didn't sell this off. I gave it to Vince. I gave it to Vince, my Walking Dead number 3. I'm still trying to get back all my Walking Dead books, and I've done a pretty good job. I know a couple years ago I started bringing them back when Walking Dead was really losing a lot of its value because the show started to slump, and I think the show's over now. So a lot of those books, even back when comic books were very, very high, back in 2021, I think I started getting them back in 2020. I was able to get a lot of my books back. So 3 was one of them that I think 3 was one of the last that I still needed to bring back to the collection. Of course, the other one that I still need to bring back that I had is number 1. Eventually, I will bring back another Walking Dead number 1 and get a number 2. I've never had number 2, so it's good to get number 3 back. Here's a book I got, a nice, decent high-grade copy of X-Men 112. Pretty cool, right? Some of these I'm just going to go through, and the others I'll spend a little more time talking about it. Here's an upgrade right here. Amazing Spider-Man number 252, the first appearance of the black costume. I had a 7.5 copy for the longest time. I think this is probably like a 9. So it's not a super, super high-grade copy, but it is a high-grade copy, and I was glad to bring it into the collection. Now, here we have a couple of Atlas books, Atlas precodes. Here is Journey into Unknown Worlds number 30, a nice 4.0, 4.5 copy. Pretty cool. And I showed this one on Instagram, I think, about a month ago. This is a 3.5 copy of Spellbound number 21. Love this cover. Look at it. The 2 figures carrying the casket in the cemetery and their bodies in the water. Really, really cool. I think, not all, with Journey into Unknown Worlds and Spellbound, those are some, I think, hidden gem Atlas books. Now, I know when it comes to Atlas books, people are looking for Mystic and some of the earlier Strange Tales and all that stuff. I forget what issue is that Come Into My Coffin cover with the skull and the guy right next to it. I think it might be 19 of Strange Tales. Classic cover, and some of those are a lot of money. But there are still precode horror Atlas books out there that are not as expensive, and I think those 2 are some good examples. So if you're interested in getting into that, you might want to start there. Here's an upgrade. It's a 5.5 copy, so it's not that much of an upgrade. I had a 3.0. Lois Lane number 70, the first Silver Age appearance of the Catwoman. Out of the Silver Age DC villains, the Batman villains, I have them all, and they were all pretty decent grades. You know, the Riddler's 7.0, my Scarecrow's 7.5, my Penguin's probably a 7.0, and so forth. The two that were always a little bit of a lower grade were the Catwoman and the Mad Hatter. Now, I upgraded the Mad Hatter about 3 years ago to a probably 4.5 copy. I should send that off to CGC, but I've never gotten around to the Catwoman. And it's not that I was looking. I knew it was one of those things I would eventually upgrade, and then the opportunity presented itself. So I got a 5.5, and probably one day I'll probably upgrade it to a 7.0. So I'm not done with that book yet, but it was nice to bring in a higher grade copy, or at least not a higher grade copy, a copy that was higher than the one I had. That's better. Okay, so let's go to the next set of raw books, and then I got a bunch of slabs here to show everyone. I'll start, get through the raws, and we'll go through the slabs. Now here is another precode book, and I don't think it gets that much attention, but I think it's pretty cool. We have Lawbreakers Suspense Stories number 14. It's a shark cover. Now, there are some people out there that like to collect certain types of covers. There are people that like me, I like morgue covers and zombie covers and skeleton covers and all that stuff. And there are people that like to collect werewolf covers. And then when you start to get a little higher, you're looking at bondage covers and Nazi covers, right? Because people love those old Master Comics books with whatever the hell that guy's name is, Captain Nazi with the big swastika. And of course, decapitation covers. So there's a niche for all these different things from the pre-code era. And Sharks is one of them. Sharks is one of them. So here on this cover, I'll show it again. We have two sharks looking to feast upon this poor guy that gets thrown in there. So I thought this was pretty good. It wasn't that expensive, so I went for it. Now, I don't remember if I showed this in my last haul. I don't regularly watch my haul videos. But if I did, I'm sorry, I'll show it again. But I have, it's important because this is my very first EC science fiction book. I've completed the horror books last year, and I'm constantly upgrading them for those that are watching these hauls and other videos and all that stuff. So you know that. The 3s became 4s, and the 4s are starting to become 5.5s, and the 5.5s are starting to become 6.0s and 6.5s, all that stuff. But throughout all that, I've never collected the weird fantasy, the weird sciences, the weird science fantasies, or anything like that. So now with this book right here, it's my first foray into EC sci-fi with weird fantasy. What number is this? I don't even know what number it is. It's one of those that just has the year on it, like Haunt of Fear number 4. It just has the year on it. It's the Mummy cover, right? So I got to look at it again. But it's a nice 4.0 copy, maybe 4.5 copy. Not bad. I love the cover. Well, what an issue to bring in as your first sci-fi EC cover. This one right here. And I've got this one now. This one is Weird Fantasy number 22. This is a nice 5055 copy. Really, really nice. Really nice. Joe Orlando artwork, Joe Orlando he's obviously passed away for a while now, but he had his birthday, I think, a day or two ago. Okay, now we're going to get to some other books. We're going back to Spider-Man. I was able to secure a better copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 13. Yeah, I've been upgrading this book over the years, and this is probably a nice 4.5 copy. Will I eventually get a higher grade? Probably, but this was also one of the books that was on my 2023 want list. As you know, on my for those that watch my channel, my 2023 want list has a series of upgrades on it, EC upgrades, which you can see I've been constantly doing. It's a revolving door of just upgrades for that particular company. But one of the specific books on there was Amazing Spider-Man 13. I wanted to get rid of my other copy for a long time, and I was able to finally bring this one in. So I'm happy with that. And the last raw book for this haul. And this is a pretty good cover. Really good cover. This was a book that it's always one of those things that I missed. I never really was able to get, or I missed an opportunity to get it, but I'm glad that I finally brought it into my collection. We have Crime Suspense Stories number 16. This is probably like a 4, maybe a 4-5 copy of it, which is good. Unless one day I see a 5.5 that I think is a good price, and then I'll buy that one. But this is a really good copy. I'm very happy with it. And it's a book. I've known this cover for a long time. I think it's one of the well-known crime covers, right? I mean, it's not as popular as the decapitation cover. Remember before I was talking about the niches in pre-code collecting when it comes to crime and horror. You got the creme de la creme seems to be decapitation covers, and then you got the bondage covers, and then you have the swastika covers. I mean, I'm not saying that's the third one down, but there are people that collect certain things, and it's not, like I said, the top for the crime line. I think the Crime 22, the decapitation cover, is obviously the number one. Then I think a lot of people, when they think of the crime series, then they think of the hanging cover, right, number 20. But I think this one is starting to pick up steam. It has been picking up steam slowly over the last few years, and glad to add it to my collection. Okay, now let's look at some of the slabs. I got quite a few slabs here. Now, I submitted to CGC last year, and now the books are starting to come back. I think I showed the Vault of Horror number 19 in the last video. Wound up getting, I thought it was going to be a 6.0. It came back a 7.0. Very happy with that. So I submitted Spawn 174. Finally came back, and we got a nice 9.8. Yeah. So I can't complain. Can't complain. I bought this book, a few years ago raw, and I had it pressed just in case. It didn't look like it needed a press, but I had it pressed anyway. And I was thinking that I didn't know if I was going to get a 9.8. I was hoping for a 9.8, so I didn't really know that I was going to get a 9.8. I thought I was at least going to get a 9.6, and no, I wound up getting a 9.8. So I'm very happy and pleased with that. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this one could be a little controversial, but this is, again, I think, a hidden gem, a sleeper book. Master Comics number 98. Now, we look at the cover and we assume it's a bigot. It's not. It's a ghost. Now, one could say, well, the bigots in question dressed up in white sheets pretending to be ghosts. So there might be a valid argument somewhere in there. But this is a book that I think is a pretty cool cover. And again, a book that doesn't necessarily show up often. I think it's pretty affordable. I don't think it's very expensive, but it's a book that's hard to find. It is hard to find. It doesn't show up that often. And again, with Master Comics, like I was saying before, you have that some of those Nazi covers that are on Master Comics that people really go for. They like the swastika on the chest or whatever. No, they go for those sort of things. So I think some of the other covers in Master Comics, this one included, goes like under the radar. Next one is another upgrade. I upgraded. I sold this book. This is my third copy of it, and it's gonna be my final copy of it, honestly. But this is my third copy of this book. My first copy I bought years ago, and I sold it. And then I got a 7.0 copy last year. Then the opportunity came up to get an even better copy, so I went for it. So we have Marvel Preview number 4 at a 9.2. This is the first appearance of Star-Lord. Again, I'm not a big fan. I said this before in another video. I'm not a big fan of these big magazine slabs, but what are you gonna do? It's nice to have a nicer copy. And this, I think I had about an 8.5 copy, my first copy, and I sold it, and then I wound up getting a 7.0 copy. So this is not only brought the book back into the collection, I got the best copy of the three. So I think I'm done upgrading. I don't need a 9.4 or a 9.6. Okay, we're moving back to Atlas Precode. And again, like I was saying, I think the Journey into Unknown Worlds, now of course there are a couple in that series that have some standout covers that will cost you a little bit more money, but I think a majority of them, and some really good covers, go under the radar. They're hidden gems. And I think this is one of them. Journey into Unknown Worlds, number 10. This is, I think it's a really cool cover. You got skeletons coming out of coffins, pretty cool little side stories here that they're advertising on the front cover. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's got really nice colors too, the green and the white. Not bad for a 4.5. I think this would have been a 5.0 if it just had been pressed, because there's some parts on the back cover that could have been pressed and cleaned, but am I going to get it pressed and clean to get a 5.0? No, I don't think it's worth it. It's just nice to have. But yeah, I'm really liking some of these, like I said, what I call these hidden gem Atlas precodes. You know, they're out there. They're out there, having yet waiting to be discovered by all of us. And they've been discovered by fans for years. And it wasn't until, like, I think a few years ago that a lot of these precode Atlas and other books really started to horror and crime books started to explode. You know, these have been collected by people for years and just haven't really caught on until late. You know, with the advent of the internet and YouTube, to bring these things out there to everyone to see that never knew they existed to begin with. Here's another upgrade. I keep upgrading this book. This book, honestly, and before I show it to you, I think if this presses, it'll be a 6.0. But it's a 5.5. Vault of Horror number 28. You know how many copies I've had of this book? It's like I keep trying to get the nicest copy for myself, what I want. And this is a pretty damn good 5.5, to be quite honest. Like I said, there are some things on here that I think if this was pressed, if this were to be pressed, it would come back a 6.0, maybe even a 6.5, because it's really, really good. Really good. And I love this cover. You know, this cover is like one of my favorite EC horror covers. A couple more and we'll be done. Another upgrade. I had a 4.0 copy of this, and then I was able to get a nice 5.5. So here we have double decapitation cover, Haunt of Fear number 19. And in this one you have Lover Come Hack to Me. And I should have said it from the HBO show. And I should have said in this one right here, Vault of Horror Till Death, season 2. Lover Come Hack to Me was season 1. Pretty cool. Yeah, 5.5. Yeah. Went from a 4.0 to a 5.5. May not seem like a whole lot, but it is, especially when it comes to that book. And now we have the last two. And the next one's going to be another EC, but it's another nice upgrade. Another nice upgrade. And it's not much of an upgrade, because, you know, it's hard to upgrade this book, but I think it's nice enough. We have Vault of Horror number 12, the first issue in the series. I had a 2.5 copy, and I upgraded to a 3.5. Now, that's not much of an upgrade. It's still below 4, but this book is expensive. It's hard to get. Some say it's scarce. I don't know how scarce it is, but this 3.5 is a very, even though it's only 1 point up, right? One full point. I know you have 2.5, then 3, then 3.5, but it's still 1 full point up, not 2 grades up. It's 2 grades up, 1 full point up. It looks a lot better than my old copy, my 2.5. It really does. And personally, on the back it has like a little bit of a stain and a couple tears. If it didn't have this, and it didn't have a couple of these stains, and if it was pressed right, because this wasn't pressed, I could tell it wasn't pressed, this probably would have been a 4, honestly. But because of those things I mentioned, those tears and that stain, I think that's what took it from the 4 to the 3.5. But hey, an opportunity. This was a book that I wanted to get. I wanted to upgrade, and I was very happy to do so. I thought I would upgrade it this year, perhaps next year, but an opportunity came up and I went with it. And the last book for this haul, it's not a brand new book to my collection, not by a long shot. It's a book that I've had in my collection, a copy of it rather, in my collection for 30 years. Right now, this time, April 2023, 30 years ago, I started collecting comic books. 30 years, not to the day. I don't remember what day it was, but it was 30 years ago in, I believe it was April. Sometimes I think it's March, but I think in truth it was April. But 30 years ago, 1993, that's when I first started getting my first comic books. And within that first batch, I think it was June of 1993, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, from that time until now, I've always had a copy of this book in my collection. I had a 3.5, then I upgraded it to a 5.0, and now I upgraded it to a 6.5. Am I done upgrading this book? Probably, but never say never. But here it is. X-Men number 3. And you thought I was going to pull out X-Men number 1? That is on my list. Who knows if I'll get to that one. But this is pretty cool, to get a 6.5 copy of this. Like I said, I've always had a copy of X-Men number 3 in my collection. For a while, it was my earliest complete X-Men Silver Age book. It was that way for years. Again, not counting the coverless, last pageless copy of my X-Men number 1 I've had for years before I sold that off. But this was the first complete copy, and it was a presentable 3.5 too. But I upgraded that to a 5.0 a few years ago. I was looking to upgrade it, and I was like, oh wow, this is a pretty good price for the 5.0. I think I even said that in the video haul that I showed it off. I don't remember which one it was, what haul it was, but I think it was 2020, perhaps, around that time. So it's 3 years ago. Go find it, I don't know. But be able to jump another, 5.5, 6.0, 6.5, 3 grades higher. It goes nice with my X-Men number 2 6.5. Now all I got to do is get an X-Men number 4 6.5 and a 5 6.5. I don't know about that, but I'm pretty sure I'll get pretty close to that as time goes on. But finally, to get this, very, very nice. Is it the end of it though? Is that the end of upgrading books like that? You get your 6.5s, you get your 7.0s, you get your 5.5s and all that. If you go back to my upgrading video I made about, I don't know, last year sometime, the end of last year, look at upgrading as stairs to the room you want to be in, or the house you want to be in, right? There's always a couple steps to get up there. Sometimes you're able to jump those couple steps to get to that point. Sometimes you go up a step at a time. But eventually it leads to a place you want to be. If a 7.5 popped up that I thought was good, it's a hell of a lot easier going from a 6.5 X-Men number 3 to a 7.5 than it was a 5.5 financially.